Hey guys, it's Nathan. Today we're just going to do like a little walkthrough of a really interesting tool. It's a tool called Segment. I'm sure some of you will have heard of it, but if you haven't, basically what it does is rather than needing to implement loads of different scripts onto your website and have like your developer perform like loads of different tracking. Let's say, for example, you want tracking of like when a user adds to your cart, and let's say you're doing advertising on like Facebook, on Google, on Twitter, on like LinkedIn, and maybe you also want to send that data over to Google Analytics. You're looking at like a number of different integrations. So Segment actually simplifies that by just letting you only need to integrate their API, and then from their dashboard, you can actually sync over to what we call, or sorry, to what they call like sources and destinations, which means that all of your data is sort of synced to all of your tools within real time, and it also means that you can push over like back to Google Ads the exact checkout amount and things like that by pulling the data in from Stripe. So it just allows you to make various different integrations between like all of the website plugins that you use. Now, it is like it's expensive. It's not a cheap tool to use, but it is really, really like effective. I had first used Segment about 2 years ago, and it was actually like due to the price that we moved away from it because it just wasn't workable for us on that particular business. But like particularly for like a B2B company that has like quite high margins, it's definitely like a tool worth using. So for your first like 1,000 visitors per month, it is actually free. And then from here on, it's like $120 per month per 10,000 visitors that you have. And if you're running like ads campaigns and things like that, the pricing does scale up pretty quickly. But nonetheless, it's like a great tool to use. The only reason we couldn't use it in that particular instance is because we were like a low ticket item. But we've actually found like a Segment startup discount that you can apply for relatively easily. And we've been able to get, I think we got a whole year of Segment access, sorry, $25,000 in credits um, for free. So you can actually go ahead and like apply for that. I definitely suggest that you do. Um, and like you can see like all the different tools and integrations that they have. There's just a ton of different sort of flows and ways that you can sync data across. They support personalization, which is quite interesting, and like a ton of other things. But as well, like I said, I've just come back to it for the first time in like 2 years. And if I can just navigate back to where I was before. So yeah, we're tracking things via our website. Mm, Okay, yeah, here we go. So I'm back in here. So one tool that like I was just playing around with now, which I think like previously you had to like implement it via like coding yourself. Um, However, they've now built this visual tagger, so you can add in your tracking like really, really easily. And I think like this is just beautiful. So that's website shit. Uh, I don't want to do that actually. So I've just like implemented all these different events, and we're just going to add like a few more. So when someone initiates the checkout on various different things, like it took me like 2 minutes to set this up. And like we can go ahead and just add another event just to like show you how easy this was. So it brings up like a interactive version of your website, and like I love this so much because it is actually telling us whether or not our script is installed, and this UX is just like fantastic. It's actually it would be quite a simple thing to do. However, like how I've never thought of doing this in Notifier is like unbelievable. So I'm definitely going to like implement something like this because we're also like a script-based SaaS solution. So just for someone to make sure that their script is actually sending data, that is so simple, but it just works so well. So currently what I've done is set up tracking on all of the buy now buttons so that we know when someone initiates a checkout. And now what we can do is just to, yeah, again, I'm just going to give you a quick demo of how like easy this is. So let's do like when a user submits a form, and we're just like, it's picked it up for us automatically. Yeah. Do we want to track information user submits? Why not? Why don't we pick up the name, email, property name, yeah, so now, okay, this is so beautiful. And the funny thing is that it ties right into Notifier because on my other company, Notifier, we're adding in like personalization where you can also identify users, or let's say like you're using a tool like Segment, you could send over to us, it's this visitor currently on your website, and any notifications that you displayed, we would just add in like the name, email, or sorry, we'd add in the name to make it like personalized. So event triggers on URL contains checkout. Add property name. This was plan. I think I've got a hidden input field, and that's what they're picking up on. Okay, that's really nice. So now we can go back to actually testing. Like you'll see, they've got like a live. It tracks in real time what you've done. So, for example, I can just go ahead and fill out this form. I'll just pause the video quickly whilst I enter my card details. Cool. So that event went through and it marked it as being successfully initiated. Um, I did actually make like a video on doing this like ages ago, but I'm just going to give like a quick demo as well. So for anyone who like hasn't done this before, it is like, so you can just track like as many things as you want on a page. Now, in general, just to give like some uh, sort of context, like this, I think it was actually through it was another growth hacker who actually used to work at Segment that I watched a video and learnt this from. So what you should do is keep like the most important data like at the top of the page. Um, and it was also to keep everything just like so that you're, it's quite difficult to explain this if you haven't done this before, but you sort of want all of your data to sort of stay in order. So it's like when you're sort of reviewing it like further down the line. So rather than saying like homepage button and then or saying like call to action button on all your different events, you want to come up with like a structure, because otherwise when you come to review this further down the line, let's say like you sync over to your like CRM or intercom or something, all these different events, they're going to appear in like alphabetical order. So it's going to be like all over the place, and if you have like 50 or 60 different events, you're going to be like just spending ages trying to find them. So instead, if you structure it like this, so it would be like button call, like I just got okay. So yeah, like actually they've given an example up here now. So we would do like button homepage, and if we're running like A/B tests, we can do like button color purple, like 500, for example. That's the shade of purple. It depends how like intricate you want to go with it. And then you could do like button text watch demo. So this is more for like if you're running like A/B tests and you want to like track all the data of what's being clicked and the click rates and things like that. So oh sorry, actually I've structured that wrong. It would be button color purple. I'm trying to give an example and I've done something stupid. So watch demo. So you're assigning a value to like each of these events. And it would be like button location home, like something like that. So this is obviously just for one example, and then when you set up tracking of the next button, like the button here, you want to make sure that all the different properties that you're tracking, that you're following this structure in how you're tracking everything, because otherwise like the data just becomes pointless. So you need to be like really strict in how you perform your structure. I also like, I've again done this a bit stupid, but the most important data that you have should be up at the top of the page. Sorry, up at the top here, so it's at the very top of your like analytics, and again keeping it in like a structured format: button color, button text, location, rather than putting location, button, color, and text. Like the data is all just going to get it's just not going to be like a clean process for you to use it. So this is just something that I learned and I sort of passed on to my developers, but on how to do it. But now you can actually just do it yourself with essentially a drag and drop builder, which makes things like super easy. Another thing to learn with analytics that I think I've just sort of learned over the years is don't track everything. Work out like what are the most important things to your business. So again, if we're working in software as a service, we should be working off like acquisition, activation, revenue, retention, and referrals. In my opinion, is the best framework to go with. So even just tracking like one metric within each of these sort of stages of your funnel. So for like acquisition, what are you counting as your, sorry, it's activation to acquisition. So what are you counting as your acquisition metric? So like I wouldn't count it as like all website visitors. In my opinion, that's pretty. It's not a good way to track things. Like maybe I'll get up like a Miro board if we're gonna go through all of this stuff. So let me just so we're going to have like all the different stages of the funnel, right? So the first thing is like acquisition. So users coming onto your website, but we don't want to track like every single website visitor. So we want to do like sort of segment. So you want to segment out your returning visitors. And as well, I would also segment out anyone who doesn't spend, doesn't want to work for me. For anyone who doesn't spend at least like 10 seconds on your website, or like 15 seconds, I personally would filter them out, because it means that they're not the type of people that you're trying to target. So you don't really want them within your like analytics. If you're going to be making decisions around like this data that people are feeding you, so removing people who bounce within 15 seconds, or within like 10 seconds, whatever you choose to do, I think is quite a good thing to do. Of course, like if you're focusing on optimizing your bounce rate, you're not going to do that. But optimizing a bounce rate isn't really a good metric to sort of start off with. Like further down the line, you can run like A/B tests, where you could try and increase the amount of time people spend on your page. But again, we're performing like full funnel analysis here. So we don't want to add like everyone into our metrics. We don't want to be performing like data analysis on people who aren't relevant to us, because then you're going to be making decisions on how to run your business based on just sort of people that we aren't interested in optimizing the business for. So I hope that makes sense. So like there may be some other things like in your industry as well, of like returning visitors. I would either like segment them, or like if you have a way of tracking if they're a user or not, you want to like separate that because they're already further down the funnel. So make sure that you have like a clean template for your analytics. So like acquisition stage, I would actually say like quite an easy, simple one to do. It could be like visits pricing. So if you have like a separate page for visiting your pricing page, that is a really good indicator that someone is like interested in what you're doing. If they're visiting pricing page, or if you have the pricing page on the home page, and you can't use that as an indicator, I would use something like visit sign up slash checkout page. So whatever comes first in your funnel. If you take someone to a sign up page to make an account, then I would use that as an activation metric. If you redirect straight to a checkout page, which we do, if you're like e-commerce, then that is a pretty good metric to track. So like again, for e-commerce, and let me just change this to blue so the funnel makes a bit more sense. Nicer blue. So these are things that we don't want to track. We're not interested in them. These are some ideas for things that you may want to track for the acquisition stage based on your business and the structure of your website. Again, it can vary. There are other things you could track as well, like how many people spend at least 30 seconds on your website, how many people spend a minute on your website could be treated as a good like acquisition metric. And yeah, and then like we can get so much more complex into this in terms of like where's the traffic coming from. But I would implement all that like further down the line once you've got comfortable with your analytics and understanding the data. You can get much more like granular with the data that you're feeding yourself. But to start with, try and make it like really easy and digestible. And because really you just don't want to overwhelm yourself with data at the start. So again, like this funnel is going to like vary based on your business. Like activation could be treated, if you're like a SaaS company, it could be treated as a free trial. It could be like a ton of different things. But most of the people who watch my videos are like SaaS founders or involved in like the SaaS business rather than like e-commerce. So let's base this on like a software as a service framework. Okay, cool. So this is just generally like the beginning metrics that I would start tracking. So for activation, I mean technically we could also put it under a pricing section. It depends what we want to track. Like we have quite a small website, so there's more like limited data for tracking. Um, hmm, I could even change the order of this round because we're not offering a free trial. We're actually charging up front. Um, okay, yeah. So this is the metric that I'll track in this scenario. Um, how many conversions? So let's just do that under activation. Revenue, because a SaaS subscription, like the biggest revenue is actually going to come from like renewals. Um, for revenue, there are three different metrics that we could go with. Well, it's going to come under the same metric, sorry. So we can do customer lifetime value. It's going to be a pretty good one. And so I'm not like suggesting that you track all of these. These are just like some ideas because it's going to vary depending on your business. Another metric that you could actually throw in there alongside that is percentage of upgrades. So renewals, let's just change that to churn. But so how churn is how many users are canceling every month. Lifetime value is what's the average amount of money that you make per customer. Revenue is going to be like, and this sorry percentage of upgrades is going to be what percentage of customers upgrade onto. Let's put that under retention actually. And like retention again is going to be really like based on your business. Like we could run retention based off usage is going to be a really good indicator of how engaged someone is within your application. Um, so this is just our way of trying to like reduce subscription. We could also put lifetime value on the retention as well. Percentage of upgrades. In fact, I'm going to swap them back round. So we can do like the lifetime value, and then this I guess is more like an action metric. So how many so by tracking these two metrics, we can actually we can cross-reference between lifetime value and like also reference based off how many people cancel based like if they had like low usage the previous month. Um, how many times did they come and visit us, so on and so forth. Luckily for us, we have an API, so we can see exactly how many times someone used our application within a month, and you could like sort of piece this data together to try and understand where users are. If a user gets below like a certain amount of usage or doesn't visit you in 30 days, you probably want to put them into like the at risk of canceling mark, and then add them into like an email automation sequence or something to try and sort of resurrect them as a customer. Again, like that's another point that I've missed is so it's getting late here and I'm feeling tired. So resurrection is what percentage of your users who cancel, how many are you able to bring back? So entering like a resurrection flow is always a pretty good idea. And then just finally, how many customers does there's a term for this again. I'm too tired to think of it. It's How many referrals does one customer bring? So if you can get your business where like every, for example, this is like the very famous Dropbox growth hack. This is how they grew so quickly. I think I read at one point they had it at a rate that one user would bring on another two users on average. It could have even been three. So I don't quote me on that. I'll have to double check it. But it was something in that region. So every time they brought on a new user, they were pretty much like doubling their user base, and they just had like this very easy viral effect. So if you're able to implement something like that, this is going to be like a really powerful way for you to grow it. So just to like go off this again, once we're tracking all of this data, your goal as a growth hacker should be how can I optimize this funnel? So I suggest working in like sprints, which is like a software development way of working, but you would usually run like 7 would be quite a short sprint, but in growth marketing, it's quite easy to do that. So you would run like a 7-day sprint working on each different metric that you have and working on how can you improve it. So whether you're like on your by yourself or you have a team, like on day one, I would actually like constantly be throwing in ideas that you have for like optimizations for these different things. And then you would work on a 7-day sprint of like how can we increase conversions? What tests can we make? Is running like a discount promotion going to help? Is building a better email follow-up sequence going to help? Is rewriting like the copy on that page, is that going to help? Is improving website page speed going to help? Customer churn, like if we have a better customer like subscription offboarding flow, is that going to reduce these? So you should spend like a week working on each of these different metrics. So these are like really simple things to track. So you did, like I said, you don't need to overwhelm yourself with the data that you're collecting, because if you just have like a ton, you're just sort of like not quite paralysis by analysis, but I guess somewhat. You're just feeding yourself too much information and numbers, particularly for like getting started. And if you're just like a small team, instead just feed yourself like data that is really easy to understand, that is really significant to your business. Like these are all really key metrics to any business, to any software business's growth, subscription business growth, and you should be tracking them. And I think only when you get to a point that you feel you're not able to optimize this data anymore, which is going to take you a long time to do that, like in my opinion, probably a lot longer than you think, to like completely optimize, like A/B test the hell out of your entire website, like landing page, checkout flow, sign up page, and so on, and get to a point that you cannot improve it anymore. It will take a while. You're gonna have to run like a lot of different tests to get to that point, and a load of different optimizations, and then not to mention like all these different metrics and these automations that you could build around these, and plugins and hacks that you can implement. Um, there's at least like a few months worth of work, and on A/B testing, like, it shouldn't be something that ever ends. You should be like constantly testing. But when you feel that you're like collecting this data and you've made all the optimizations that you can based on this, then maybe you want to go into like tracking more advanced, not advanced, but more like intricate details. Like for example, which button is someone clicking to sign up from? Like right now, that data is completely useless to us really. Um, until we've optimized as much as possible on the other metrics that we just spoke about. But like then again, there's a really good book that I mentioned before, called like Getting Real, which talks exactly about this. Like you don't need to track like or like perfect the shadow of your like button to increase conversions. Like it's just not worth worrying about to start with. Get down to your core metrics, set up good tracking in place, and that is what you should focus on. So now, I'm not going to like record the whole process of me doing it, but hopefully you understand like the general concept. I need to basically sync over from like what I'm just thinking of where I actually want to host this. Potentially in Airtable, I could actually make a analytics like tracking system, so we know the percentage for each of these things, how many conversions we got, average lifetime value for a user. Um, so yeah, now I need to work on making like some connections and syncing over to destinations. For example, like if a user doesn't complete a conversion, we can then go ahead and sync them over to like a custom audience and perform like retargeting. We can sync them over to like an email marketing tool. I think will run on Intercom. So I now need to like implement all of this stuff and start collecting some data to make some optimizations. But I'm really looking forward to it because we have a completely blank slate. So we're starting from scratch, and I'm in charge of growth on this project. So it's my responsibility to set everything here up, get all of the data that I need, and then start implementing some growth hacks to optimize the metrics. Um, of course, like this will all be documented. I don't think anyone's ever done a video like this. Like they upload videos like, of sort of growth hacks, if that's what what you want to call them. I think that's an arguable point in a lot of situations. But anyway, I don't think anyone's ever actually gone through like the entire growth hacking process in terms of tracking metrics, understanding what's happening, coming up with ideas to optimize these metrics, designing them, building them, implementing them, putting in plugins, like whatever it may be that you're doing to optimize that metric, then tracking the results, and then deploying it as an actual fix. That is what like growth hacking is actually all about for people who've read like hacking growth and things like that. They'll understand that that is what the actual process is. Um, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing this, and I hope that people will learn something from like the sort of things that we put together and syncing together various different APIs to get our like analytics in place. It's getting late now, so I'll probably mess around with this for like half an hour or so, and then go to bed and like sit down on this properly tomorrow. Um, but yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope that this has like given some insight and ideas for you on implementing your tracking and how easy it is to like sync your data um, between Segment and like various other tools. Yeah, Hotjar we can implement as well. Actually, that's an interesting idea. Um, So yeah, you can actually just get so flexible with this. Anyway, I won't get into another lecture. Thank you very much for watching. I hope everyone is safe and well in this sort of coronavirus crazy situation. As always, have a great day. If you enjoyed the video, please, yeah, please leave a like. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.